Pauley Perrette is leaving NCIS. The 48-year-old actress confirmed rumors that she is exiting the hit CBS crime drama after 15 years.
She was television's unlikeliest star. Black lipstick, lab coat, and a cult following that turned a supporting role into the soul of NCIS.
I'm still grieving. It feels differently every day, you know, and it's sad. I usually cry in my car every single day when I drive to work.
But behind Pauley Perrette's smile was a story Hollywood never wanted told. Fractured friendships, a studio in crisis, a health scare that nearly ended it all. Now, at 56, she is finally ready to speak on her own terms. How Pauley Perrette turned Abby Sciuto into a television icon. When Pauley Perrette first stepped into the shoes of Abby Sciuto on NCIS in 2003, no one could have predicted the kind of cultural imprint the character would leave. At a time when most television forensic scientists were written as dry, technical minds, Abby was something different. She was sharp, brilliant, and quirky. When Abby Sciuto first appeared on NCIS, she wore a distinctive goth-inspired wardrobe, which included black platform shoes, dark eye makeup, blunt bangs, and a choker. Her style, defined by black dresses, t-shirts, and goth-inspired jewelry that made her instantly recognizable as the team's eccentric forensic scientist, stood out sharply against the professional attire of her colleagues. This contrast became her magic. People weren't just watching another crime procedural, they were tuning in to see a character who felt like a friend. Someone who could solve cases with unmatched skill while making you laugh and feel at the same time. The brilliance of Pauley's performance was how authentic Abby felt. She wasn't a stereotype, and she wasn't trying to fit into a box. Abby was goth, but she was also bubbly. She was quirky, but she was deeply competent at her job. This balance was what pulled people in and kept them watching. Viewers quickly realized that beneath the spiked collars and tattoos was a woman with a huge heart. In fact, Abby often acted as the emotional anchor of NCIS. Whether she was comforting a teammate or celebrating a solved case with her trademark calf pow in hand, she added a layer of warmth that made the show feel alive. So naturally, it didn't take long for audiences to fall in love with her. And by the mid-2000s, Abby Sciuto wasn't just another television character. She had become a cultural phenomenon. At her peak, she posted one of the highest Q scores among primetime television actors, a rare level of recognition and affection. In plain terms, this meant people adored her. She wasn't just recognizable, she became one of the most beloved faces on television, which is no small feat on a long-running series with such a massive cast. As the seasons of NCIS rolled on, Pauley's Abby became a fixture in households around the world. Fans copied her style, quoted her lines, and celebrated the uniqueness she brought to television. She was proof that you didn't have to fit into a conventional mold to be successful or loved. In fact, it was the very things that made Abby different that made her stand out. Week after week, she gave people permission to embrace their quirks, and audiences responded by showering her with unwavering loyalty. Behind the scenes, Pauley wasn't just acting, she was pouring parts of herself into Abby. In real life, she studied criminal justice and criminology at Valdosta State and later pursued postgraduate work at John Jay. She had even planned to continue further studies before shifting paths into acting, leaving behind what could have been a long career in criminal justice. Fans could feel the authenticity, and it deepened their connection to her. This realness gave Abby layers that might not have existed in another actor's hands. The impact of Abby's popularity stretched beyond NCIS. She appeared in spin-off episodes, guest-starred in crossover events, and became a recognizable face across the broader franchise. For many, she wasn't just part of the show, she was the show. Even Entertainment Weekly pointed out that Pauley's appeal stayed sky-high long after she left the series, a rare achievement in television where audiences often move on quickly. The love people had for her didn't fade with her departure. If anything, it proved just how strong her bond with viewers had been. Her time as Abby also opened doors outside the series because after her exit in 2018, Pauley signed on to a CBS sitcom called Broke, and though it only lasted a season, her involvement proved she still had the star power to headline shows. She also explored other creative sides of herself, writing poetry, recording music, and speaking openly about issues that mattered to her. She has been an active no-hate supporter and visible LGBTQ+ ally, participating in events and fundraising. This sense of authenticity carried over from her character to her real life, which only made fans love her more. The bond between Abby and the fans was unlike anything else on television at the time. Pauley often said she felt incredible love from the people who watched Abby grow over 15 seasons. And she meant it, because this wasn't surface-level admiration. Fans wrote heartfelt letters, shared personal stories about how Abby helped them embrace their identities, and even credited the character with inspiring careers in science or law enforcement. Abby wasn't just a fictional character. She became a role model, someone people leaned on and drew strength from. And here's where the story gets even more remarkable. Most television characters, even the popular ones, fade from memory once their shows end, but Abby Sciuto continues to live on in reruns, fan art, cosplay, and pop culture references. The character carved out a permanent space in television history. And that's thanks to Pauley's ability to bring her to life in a way that felt genuine and enduring. 15 years in the same role is no small achievement in Hollywood, but Pauley didn't just fill the time. She created something timeless. Think about it. How many shows run for that long, with a character who stays consistently beloved from the first episode to the last? The answer is very few, but Pauley managed to do what most actors can only dream of. The rise of Pauley Perrette through Abby Sciuto is not simply a story about stardom. It's about connection. It's about how one character, portrayed with honesty and depth, can reach millions of people across backgrounds and generations. Abby wasn't perfect, and that was the point. She was relatable in her quirks, inspiring in her intelligence, and unforgettable in her kindness. This is why the fandom surrounding her never truly died down, and why Pauley Perrette remains a television legend to this day. Abby's legacy is more than the crime scenes she solved or the witty lines she delivered. It's in the countless fans who still smile when they hear her name, in the stories of young viewers who chose science because of her, and in the simple fact that a goth forensic scientist on a procedural drama became one of the most loved characters in television history. Pauley Perrette's journey as Abby Sciuto seemed unstoppable, yet behind the adoration lingered secrets. Her shocking NCIS exit wasn't simple. It unraveled into conflicting stories, rumors, and mysteries still debated today. The NCIS exit. Official story versus rumors. For 15 seasons, Pauley Perrette's Abby Sciuto felt untouchable, and many fans believed she would stay until the very last episode of NCIS. So when Pauley announced in October 2017 that season 15 would be her last, the news came as a shock. At first, everything seemed carefully managed. She spoke about wanting new opportunities, a change in direction, maybe even time to explore other parts of her career. CBS even matched that calm tone, praising her incredible run and wishing her well. On the surface, it looked like an amicable split. A beloved star moving on at the height of her popularity, and a network gracefully letting her go. However, it was just for show and far from the truth. By May 2018, when Pauley's final episode aired, fans were still reeling from the loss. Abby, arguably the heart of NCIS, was gone. The farewell felt emotional, almost like it was written as a goodbye for both the character and the actress. Many thought that was the end of the story, but days after her final episode, Pauley posted cryptic tweets implying that she had left after multiple physical assaults. Over a year later, in June 2019, she tweeted that she was terrified of Mark Harmon, who played Special Agent Leroy Jethro Gibbs in the series, making the conversation far more pointed. Her tweets weren't vague or casual. They were sharp, urgent, and unsettling. In one, she warned about a very rich publicity machine spreading lies about her, and in another, she warned that nothing is worth your safety. These weren't the words of someone peacefully walking away from a job. They hinted at turmoil, fear, and conflict on a level no one outside the set had imagined. The posts sent fans into a frenzy, and it got even more specific a couple of days later when she tweeted again in caps that she would never return to NCIS, adding that not only she was terrified of Harmon, he was also attacking her. For audiences who had watched the cast operate as a family for so many years, the idea of that kind of fracture was jarring. The show thrived on chemistry, in the sense that this team truly trusted each other, so to hear that one of its most beloved stars was claiming otherwise was almost unthinkable. As her words spread across social media and headlines, CBS stepped in with their own response. Kelly Call, the then network's entertainment president, told reporters that Pauley had come forward long before with a workplace concern, and that it had been handled to everyone's satisfaction. He emphasized the network's commitment to creating a safe work environment, a phrase that sounded both carefully chosen and deliberately limited. It was clear CBS wanted to shut down speculation without inflaming it further. Shortly after, Pauley tweeted again, but this time her tone was softer. She thanked CBS for always having her back, and seemed to signal that, at least publicly, she was ready to close the book on the matter. For the network, it was the neat ending they needed, but for fans, it wasn't nearly enough because the pieces didn't line up. If it was all resolved, why the explosive tweets? And if CBS had indeed always supported her, why did she sound so afraid in the first place? The confusion only made the mystery deeper. Reports tied some of the tension on set to a 2016 incident in which Mark Harmon's dog allegedly bit a crew member. Some outlets suggested that the episode caused friction and schedule changes, though neither side ever fully confirmed the details. Others believed the issue was broader, maybe a clash of personalities that had escalated beyond repair. Still, no one outside of those directly involved really knew, and the silence left a vacuum where rumors grew louder and more elaborate. For fans who had followed Abby for more than a decade, the uncertainty was hard to take. They weren't used to seeing Pauley in this light, as she had always been outspoken, but never in a way that felt so raw or so fearful. And because Abby Sciuto was defined by warmth, loyalty, and humor, the contrast between the beloved character on screen and the actress off-screen was striking. It felt like realizing someone you thought you knew had been carrying a heavy secret all along. What made Pauley's exit linger in people's minds wasn't only the unanswered questions, but the way it disrupted the usual rhythm of television departures. Most stars of long-running shows leave with fanfare, tributes, and heartfelt speeches. But with Pauley, the goodbye was wrapped in shadows. The official story said she wanted a new chapter, but the unofficial story suggested fear and conflict. Both can't be fully true at the same time, and this contradiction has kept fans talking ever since. Even now, Years later, the debate continues. Was her departure the result of ordinary workplace conflict that got blown out of proportion? Or was it a deeper issue that never came fully to light? Those who loved Abby Sciuto may never get a clear answer. What remains is the memory of a character who gave people joy for so long, and the sharp contrast of an exit that felt anything but joyful. The official story and the rumors sit side by side, neither able to fully erase the other. The network's polished statements gave fans one version. Pauley's raw tweets gave them another. Somewhere between the two is the truth, and that truth is what keeps people guessing, even long after Abby walked out of the lab for the last time. What looked like a quiet farewell quickly unraveled into rumors of conflict, and at the center of it all was one incident, Mark Harmon's dog bite that changed everything behind the scenes. The Mark Harmon dog bite saga and tensions. Sometimes the smallest crack in a foundation reveals much larger problems underneath. And for NCIS, that crack appeared in the form of a dog bite. In 2016, reports surfaced that Mark Harmon, the show's leading man and executive producer, brought his rescue dog to the set. On one of those days, the dog bit a crew member badly enough to require over 15 stitches. Word of the incident spread quietly at first, but it didn't take long before people began connecting it to something much bigger. Pauley Perrette was said to have raised concerns about the safety of the crew after that incident. According to The Wrap, she objected to the dog being brought back to set, and while it's never been publicly confirmed what was said or how heated the conversations became, the timing left an impression. From that point on, the dynamic between Perrette and Harmon seemed strained, with insiders later revealing that the two stars rarely shared screen time after the incident. In fact, when Abby's farewell episode aired in 2018, fans noticed that the flashbacks featuring her and Gibbs together were crafted with camera tricks and body doubles. They were never actually on set together. The idea that the cheerful heart of the show and its stoic leader couldn't be in the same room shocked audiences because, for years, their on-screen chemistry was one of NCIS's most reliable anchors. Yet, behind the cameras, something had clearly shifted. Insiders told The Wrap that Pauley had already been planning to leave before the dog bite even happened, but the timing lined up in a way that fueled endless speculation. Was she leaving to defend crew members, or was this about a deeper divide with Harmon? Nobody had a definitive answer, but the questions stuck. Harmon, for his part, never addressed the matter publicly. He remained silent, letting CBS carry the weight of official statements, and his silence only made things louder. In Hollywood, when the person at the center of a rumor refuses to speak, the void is quickly filled with theories, rumors, and guesses. Fans online latched onto every scrap of information, dissecting Pauley's comments, comparing old interviews, and even reading between the lines of episodes themselves. What makes the whole saga so unusual is how little concrete information ever surfaced. Beyond the reported dog bite, the details remain murky. There was no official confirmation of Pauley's allegations coming from CBS, and Harmon's refusal to address them publicly meant there was never a direct counterstatement either. This has left a story told almost entirely through implication and interpretation, fueled by cryptic posts and half-confirmations. The effect was like watching a shadow play on a wall. You see shapes and movement, but never the full picture. The lack of closure made the situation feel bigger than it might have been, and fans had spent years investing in the family dynamic of the NCIS cast. And now they were faced with the suggestion that two of its most important members couldn't stand each other. Even though Pauley continued to thank CBS in later tweets, saying the network had always had her back, the earlier fear she expressed never stopped echoing. It was simply impossible to unhear her worth. Years later, the story still hovers like unfinished business. The dog bite itself is a fact, confirmed and documented. A crew member was injured, and Harmon continued bringing the dog to set afterward, which sparked tension. Everything beyond that is harder to pin down. Was it simply a disagreement about workplace safety that grew into a personal rift? Or did something more serious unfold behind the curtain of one of television's most successful dramas? The truth likely lies somewhere between the extremes, but without open statements from the people involved, the uncertainty keeps fueling interest. For fans, it became more than gossip. It was a betrayal of the image they had built of their favorite show. They had believed in the bond between Gibbs and Abby, and suddenly they were confronted with the possibility that the actors behind those roles couldn't reconcile real-life differences. The Mark Harmon dog bite saga is a reminder of how fragile the balance on a long-running series can be. 15 seasons is a long time to keep any team together, and even one incident can become the spark that ignites larger tensions. Whether or not the bite was the true reason for Pauley's exit, it became the symbol of it, and to the public, that single event came to represent years of unspoken conflict. What remains isn't a neatly tied-up story, but a series of questions. Pauley left NCIS for good, and made clear she would never return. Harmon stayed silent, continuing his role as both actor and producer until his own exit in 2021, while CBS did what networks do best: control the narrative enough to keep the show moving forward. Yet for fans, the memory of that fallout lingers. The dog bite saga was only the beginning. Soon, the spotlight shifted from set tensions to Pauley's own safety, health scares, and the swirl of wild rumors surrounding her. Debunking wild rumors, health scares, and personal safety. When a star walks away from a hit show as massive as NCIS, curiosity turns into speculation almost overnight. Fans wanted explanations, and in Pauley Perrette's case, those explanations often came in the form of wild, unverified rumors. Some were strange, others were cruel, and a few bordered on the absurd. One of the most surprising rumors that surfaced almost immediately was a headline claiming Pauley had quit NCIS to launch her very own skincare line. The story spread quickly across questionable websites and social media, complete with fake advertisements that even plastered Pauley's photos next to bogus products. She wasted no time responding. Jumping on Twitter, she wrote in all caps, "No, I don't have a skincare line. False rumors as to why I leave NCIS." The bluntness of her words cut through the noise because not only was the rumor untrue, it was part of a scam. Someone had hijacked her image to sell a product she had absolutely nothing to do with, turning her departure into an opportunity to deceive her fans. For Pauley, it was more than just an inconvenience. It was a harsh reminder of what happens when you live in the public eye. Your name, your face, and even your career choices are no longer yours solely. They can be twisted, repackaged, and sold to the public without your consent. And in an era where misinformation travels faster than truth, Pauley's experience showed just how easily reality could be overshadowed by a manufactured story. Another rumor that gained traction painted a far darker picture. It claimed that Pauley Perrette had been forced out of NCIS after a bitter falling out with CBS. The headline went a step further to say she was blacklisted behind the scenes and silenced by the network. This made for an easy headline, but the pieces never really fit together because almost immediately after her exit from NCIS, CBS offered her a starring role in their brand new sitcom, Broke. If the studio had truly wanted to cut ties with her, they would not have handed her another major project so soon. The network also continued to speak about her with respect, publicly praising her long run as Abby Sciuto. Even Pauley herself went on record more than once to thank CBS, writing that the executives had always had her back. This doesn't sound like the words of someone locked in a Cold War with the studio. Theories of conspiracies, firings, and secret grudges may have made for entertaining tabloid fodder, but the evidence told a simpler story. She left because she wanted to move forward. Beyond her own comments about personal safety, there has never been proof of any dramatic fallout between Pauley and CBS. The rumors were loud, but the truth was far more chilling because while fans speculated about network politics and secret feuds, Pauley Perrette was fighting real battles that left scars no headline could capture. Where Pauley Perrette's story gets more serious and sad is in the reality of her personal life. Safety for her became a lived trauma, not a vague worry. And all these started on the evening of November 12, 2015, while she was walking near her Hollywood Hills home on Cahuenga Terrace. Pauley was grabbed by a transient who later was identified as David Merck, and according to her tweets and police reports, he pinned her arm, struck her repeatedly in the face, and threatened to unalive her. Perrette later said she collapsed on the sidewalk in shock, texted a friend next door and a friend who is a police officer, and emergency responders were called. Luckily, the man was arrested that night. After the arrest, Pauley cooperated with prosecutors, and Merck was charged with felony counts, including making criminal threats and false imprisonment by violence. In court proceedings, he eventually was found unfit to stand trial and was sent to a state psychiatric facility called Patton State Hospital for treatment, rather than straight to prison. The assault came out of nowhere. One moment she was on an ordinary stroll, the next she was in a fight for her life against a stranger. She later described the overwhelming fear of not knowing whether she would survive the encounter, a fear that lingered long after the physical wounds healed. As if fate had not done enough damage, just a few months later, in February 2016, Pauley reported another frightening encounter with a different homeless man while she was stopped in her car on Cahuenga Boulevard. She wrote that she had stopped to give $1, and the man then poked his head into her open car window and briefly grabbed her wrist and asked what time it was. Pauley said she shouted a prayer, "I rebuke you, Satan, in the name of Jesus Christ," and told him the time. The man released her and walked away. She later tweeted she was totally okay and that the incident had been incredibly weird. Multiple news outlets treated this as a second close call, but not as a physical assault that landed her in hospital. She also noted she had a taser and a tactical knife in the car, but chose not to use them. So when Pauley later spoke about safety concerns surrounding her departure from NCIS, her words carried undeniable weight. They weren't hollow statements or carefully crafted PR lines. They were rooted in lived experience, the kind that changes you forever. For fans who had only ever seen her smiling in Abby Sciuto's lab coat, it was a sobering revelation. Behind the bright character was a woman who had endured terrifying, life-threatening moments. Pauley's struggles did not end there, though. In September 2021, Pauley suffered a massive stroke, an event she revealed 1 year later in a hauntingly candid tweet. "1 year ago, I had a massive stroke, yet still a survivor after this traumatic life I've been given so far. Still here." Those words, written in capital letters, carried both defiance and gratitude. In videos that followed, she listed the hardships she had survived, including an allergic reaction, multiple attacks, an abusive partner, and ended with the simple declaration, "And I'm still here." No embellishment was needed. The power was in the fact that it was true. The stroke marked a turning point in her life as Pauley quietly stepped away from acting altogether. After leaving NCIS, she closed the book on her television career, not out of bitterness but from resilience. Having stared down too many brushes with death, she chose health and peace of mind over the endless demands of Hollywood. To her, survival mattered more than chasing the next role. But even long before the stroke, Pauley had lived under the shadow of fear. Fame couldn't shield her. Years of threats, assaults, and legal battles quietly eroded her sense of safety, forcing choices that prioritized survival and a fragile, hard-won peace over many years. In 2004, her marriage to actor Coyote Shivers ended. However, it wasn't the marriage ending that was the heartbreaking part, because the fallout was harrowing. She accused him of threats, harassment, and impersonation, and after a long legal process, secured a permanent restraining order. Yet, as she later admitted, the fear never completely faded. In 2017, she appeared on 48 Hours to speak publicly about her years of being stalked, describing how exhausting and terrifying it was to live with that kind of pressure. Her story was not sensationalized. It was a chilling reminder of how relentless and invasive harassment can be. When you piece all of this together, the picture is staggering. Here is a woman who has survived brutal assaults, endured years of stalking, been hospitalized from random acts of violence, and nearly lost her life to a stroke. This is not the resume of someone caught up in petty Hollywood politics. It's the lived reality of someone who has fought for survival at every turn. So when Pauley says nothing is worth risking her safety, she speaks with the authority of someone who knows exactly what that means. This is why the more outlandish rumors about her exit from NCIS feel almost insulting. It was never about a skin cream scam. It wasn't about being secretly fired, and it certainly wasn't a conspiracy cooked up in a CBS boardroom. Her decision was layered and personal, shaped by experiences that most people could never fully grasp. Walking away was not about ego. It was about survival. Even now, Pauley's presence on social media reflects that same balance of vulnerability and resilience. She doesn't shy away from sharing her hardships, but she always frames them with strength. The reminder that she survived, that she is still here. Her posts are less about victimhood and more about endurance. And in many ways, that has become her greatest legacy beyond NCIS. Millions will always remember her as Abby Sciuto, the quirky, brilliant goth scientist with a heart of gold. But behind that role is Pauley Perrette, a woman who has endured some of life's darkest chapters and still found a way to keep standing. Every rumor debunked, every attack survived, every health scare overcome. All of it builds to one undeniable truth. Her survival is her story. But what do you think? Was her NCIS exit really about safety or something deeper? Do you believe the official story or the rumors? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you enjoyed this video, click on the next video on your screen.